So this weekend, we are reaching the end of a very awkward, very weird period in Cleveland Browns history. A very brief period in Cleveland Browns history when it's all said and done, which is the Jacoby Brissett era. Now, I think that this era, even though, look, they're 3-7 right now, right? And nobody is happy with 3-7. But that doesn't mean that this can't be a blessing in disguise. And what I mean by that is I think although the record was not what we wanted, there were some things that we can learn from this era that will ultimately help this team, for once, reach their expectations next year. Right? That is the hope. That is ultimately the goal. That's what we want. We want this team to reach expectations next year. So how can they go about doing that? Or what did they learn? Actually, that's a better question. What did they learn, right? Because the benefit, and it's not really a benefit, but it is a benefit when it comes to highlighting certain things. But what I'm trying to say here is that when you're 3-7, everything slightly wrong about your team bugs the absolute everything out of you, right? Because here's a perfect example. And this isn't saying it's right or wrong, but this year, the big criticism of Kevin Stefanski has been his demeanor on the sideline. It's not angry enough, or he's not passionate enough on the sideline, or what people want a different personality there, right? That's basically what it is. He is too calm. And it's giving off this impression to some people that he doesn't care about being 3-7, which is, I think, is ridiculous, right? You don't have to be yelling, screaming to care, to show that you care. He obviously cares. But that's something that bugs people. You know what's funny? When this team was 11-5 in 2020, didn't nobody care about that at all. Matter of fact, not only did nobody care that he wasn't yelly, screamy guy, we preferred it. We said collectively as a fan base, Kevin's the reason they've been able to be good in the 2020 year, because he was able to set a calm and steady ship with his demeanor. His demeanor was a positive in 2020 when you were 11-5. 3-7. Oh, it sucks. You see what I mean? There are some things that just bug you more when you're losing. It's important to decipher which one of those things are important, which one of those things are kind of just you just being mad at the record, right? I think the people being mad at Kevin Stefanski's demeanor, they're mad at the demeanor, sure. Like, I'm pretty sure there's something about that bugs them. Maybe they're not the kind of people that like calm people. Maybe they're more likely to scream and yell. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. If it didn't bug you at 11-5, it's not something that's fireable at 3-7. That doesn't make any sense to me. So those things, I don't care about. The things I do feel like were illuminated. Oh, I do. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. We're going to start with the bad. This run defense, this defense period, stinks. Stinks. And you know what? If Deshaun was here, I don't know if we would understand how badly they stink, because a better quarterback puts the defense in better positions to be successful. And what I mean by that is, if Deshaun were here, it's more likely the Browns would have been in situations where they're up 10 points, where teams can't run the ball on them. And it might just be that a lot of the flaws that have been exploited in this Browns defense just don't get discovered as early, or can't be exploited as much because the teams aren't in situations to exploit them. Whenever you look at these games, pay attention to when the run game becomes a real big factor for the teams that we're playing against. It's always after halftime, and it's that second possession after they scored after halftime, right? The Browns don't ever win a coin toss for whatever reason. We've won one all year, I think, against Pittsburgh. But they don't win a coin toss. So what happens is they give up a touchdown before halftime. Halftime comes around. The other team gets the ball back because they lost the coin toss. And they either get 3 points or 7 points. And then the Browns go down either 10 or 14. And then that's when the wheels fall off with the run game and the rest of the game, right? That's exactly why is that? Because once teams go up plus 10, it's a wrap for the run defense because now they're incentivized to run the ball. And then the game's over. When the Browns don't go down 10, these things don't pop up. If the Browns go up 10, these things don't pop. Why did the run game defense not matter against the Bengals? Because we was up 10 the whole game, baby. That's why defense looked amazing when we was up 10. A better quarterback takes advantage of more of these red zone situations the Browns are likely to get into. A better quarterback gets you up to plus 10 more often with this team. And we can say, the defense will never allow the Browns to go. We've been in position to go up plus 10 almost every week this year. The Browns have been in position to go up 10 points almost every week this year. There's been like 2 times where they couldn't have. So they get in position plenty. And if Deshaun were here, we probably would have taken advantage of it. And the run game doesn't get involved. And we end up winning some of these games we lost. And we don't worry about this as bad because it doesn't get as bad as Buffalo. It doesn't get as bad as the Dolphins. But now it has. And now we know the full extent to this exploiture of this run defense, which is it might be one of the worst ones I've ever seen in modern NFL history. Most certainly since HD. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic, but the Browns run defense could be the worst since HD. Since all the games were widely broadcast in HD, this is the worst. I don't remember a worse one. From a film standpoint, from just looking at them, maybe even statistically, but watching them, the lack of ideal it's horrible. And it's Joe Wood's fault. It's some of the players' fault. And what's going to happen in the offseason, hopefully, is that they all get shaken loose. And we do to the defense what we did to the offense. Because the offense last year was just terrible. It was one of the worst things to watch in all of football last year. This defense, they're so bad it's good. And what I mean by that is it's like last year's offense was bad. And it was miserable to watch film on them. This year's defense is bad, but they're so fascinatingly bad defensively against the run that it's kind of fascinating to watch. I mean, I did a whole film breakdown on it. Check that out. But that being said, it should not be that bad. And while that hole could have been masked a little bit, it would still be the worst run defense in football, even with Deshaun, but it would be masked. The level that you can exploit it wouldn't be to what teams are doing now, right? Like the 200-yard Jeff Wilson games wouldn't be happening. It would be 112 yards on relatively low carries or something like that, right? But it would still be the worst run defense in football. It just wouldn't be exploited to the extent that it has. And since it has, now you know that this is the type of run defense and defense period that loses you games in the playoffs. So get rid of it. Get rid of all of it. Don't let Deshaun Watson play a meaningful season with this damn run defense. You gotta let it go. Another thing we learned was that wide receivers, right? We were complaining about 2 position groups all offseason. Defensive tackle. I've been complaining about defensive tackle since 2019. But I mean, I've been complaining about defensive tackle since Larry Ogunjobi was on the squad. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute, man. I was complaining about them defensive. I feel bad because I thought the defensive tackles weren't good enough when it was Larry and Sheldon. I felt like they needed more. Felt they need more beef. I was talking about getting more beef with them. I would pay so much money to get Sheldon and Larry Ogunjobi back. That's how bad the defensive tackle. And never mind, we know they stuck. The wide receivers, though, we thought the wide receivers were. A lot of us thought it was worse of a situation in defensive tackle, and people were panicking about wide receiver more. And one of the things I wasn't really worried about with wide receiving was, one, we got Deshaun. I'm not really too concerned. And two, wide receivers in this offense are able to be schemed open at a higher level. And then when you take in the fact how teams are going to defend the Browns, you're not asking them to do much because teams are going to load the box against the Browns. Every team has played that cover one high, load the box kind of defense on them. And that means that all your wide receivers have to do is beat one-on-one coverage on the outside. They can do that. Amari Cooper can do that. David Njoku can do that. And so can Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think they've been a formidable group there. David Bell, if he can emerge, that'd be great. I would like one more guy, like a speed guy. You know what I mean? Everybody goes Will Fuller or something like that. Hey, you're probably going to get this guy in the draft. But I would like a speed guy to kind of put the cherry on top of everything. But I think you're fine at wide receiver. So we found out that those wide receivers are good. Look, we went into this offseason like crying, thinking the wide receivers going to be the worst. And honestly, this wide receiving group has produced at a level that we prayed that Jarvis and Odell would. Like Jarvis and Odell never had. Did they have it? Well, Jarvis had the 1 year here where he was over 1,000. And then Odell was over 1,000, I think, 1 year. But I don't think they both got close to 1,000 in the same year. So, yeah, amazingly enough, Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones has been more productive than Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. Take that for whatever argument that you're going to throw it on the internet for. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But that's what's been the truth. So there that is. And then David Njoku, great signing. And look, we're going to focus when you're 3-7 on a lot of negative stuff that Andrew Berry has done to put us in this situation. Yes, the defensive tackle picks have been terrible. Like absolutely terrible. Can't explain. And some of the tight end picks have been terrible. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6th round. That's a really good selection. 6th round. Like, I think people like they get mad at like a 5th round pick not being good. It's a 5th round pick. Some of them don't even make the team. But a 6th round pick being good, you get all the credit in the world for that. And then also David Njoku, extending him to that contract. Great decision. Great decision. Wasn't a no-brainer. A lot of people didn't like it. It was a great decision. Amari Cooper trade. Great decision. Got to take the good with the bad. Obviously, he has some flaws he needs to fix, but he proved that he could flip the. Andrew Berry proved that he could flip this offense over and reboot it last year, and he did. Defensively, now he has to do the same. I don't think anything's been fireable for Andrew Berry. It's been fireable for Joe Woods. Andrew Berry, not so much. And then there's another person people want to fire. I'm actually going to praise him. People are going to be pissed at me. I don't care. Kevin Stefanski has proven that he is the guy on the offensive side to do this. And I know people go, hey, he's the head coach. He should meddle more in the defense. And I don't think that's a recipe for success, just because if you look around the league at all the coaches that have tried to do that, that has not worked, right? If once they have stepped out of their area of expertise and tried to actually run the other side of the ball, it never works. Just look at what's happening with the Patriots right now, where they got 2 defensive guys trying to run the offense. It just never works. We want head coach. Head coach is not the job description that we all think it is. Head coach is, hey, if you have expertise on one side of the ball, that's what you're in charge of. And also you're in charge of managing the locker room and manage. It's a management job. It's not you control both offense and defense. You're managing things. And Kevin Stefanski is going to be tested as a manager this offseason because he has to fire his homeboy, right? Like Joe Woods is his homie. He got to get rid of the homeboy. And he got to get rid of his other homeboy, Mike Prefa. Like, he's going to be tested as a manager there. But on game day, his job is the offense. Make sure nobody gets in a fight on the sideline. Offense. That's his job. And call the plays. But that's pretty much his job. Joe Woods is supposed to be in charge. But it's going to be up to Kevin this offseason to show his managerial skills when it comes to firing his homeboys. Because there's a reason that you don't want to hire look, everybody loves to think about, hey, man, I'm going to hire my homeboys to do all this important stuff with me once I get to the top. But the problem with hiring your homeboys is that you might have to fire your homeboys. And anybody who's had to fire a homeboy, knows. Kind of sucks, right? Friendship's never the same. It ain't that you would have much rather that it worked out, but it's always going to be awkward when you have to fire one of the homeboys. It's never fun. But that's what Kevin got to do. He got to fire one of the homeboys. But that's for the offseason. In the regular season, I think we found out Kevin's the guy. Offensively, yeah, he's the guy. You look at all the quarterbacks, right? Kirk Cousins won his only playoff game, I believe, under Kevin Stefanski. Significant, being that Kirk Cousins has been in the league for like 10 years. He's won one playoff game. Kevin Stefanski was his offensive coordinator. And you could say when it comes to an impact on winning, not just like raw statistics, but like if you look at his WAR, win over replacement, Kirk Cousins has never been as good as when he's had Kevin Stefanski as his offensive coordinator. Baker Mayfield, he had a year where he was top 8. And he had a year where he was injured to all. We got all the excuses about how injured he was in 2021. And he still was like 26 in QBR. He's 34 right now, healthy. He was so much better with Kevin Stefanski. And I wonder if one day he's going to ever realize that the offense that he felt like did not fit him so much that he started going rogue on it last year, which is what he admitted that he did, was the only offense he was ever going to find success with in the NFL. Genius move there by Baker Mayfield. Congratulations, man. 34th QBR. Hope he enjoys that. So obviously Baker's been much better with Kevin than anybody else. And then Jacoby's been much better with Kevin than anybody else. There is a consistent track record where you can make the argument that everybody who has been around this dude, quarterback-wise, has played their best football with Kevin. So hopefully that translates to Deshaun. It's a different job, though, right? And I'm stealing this from Jake Burns, because Jake Burns has a saying where there's some quarterbacks who are recreators that can recreate what the offense gives them, and there's some quarterbacks who are creators. It's one thing to make recreators better, which is what he has done so far in his career. All those guys I mentioned before are recreators, not necessarily creators themselves. And it's another thing to have a good offense with somebody who is more of a baller like Deshaun, because Deshaun's not going to rely as much on the coaching to make some plays happen, which is both a good and bad thing. Makes you less predictable, but also makes things less predictable for the coach. So we'll see how that meshes. I feel like it'll be fine, but we'll see. But that's what we've learned from the Jacoby Brissett era. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. You have a great day. Have a good night.